Hey everybody, welcome back live at Drew's house, another edition. Hope everybody is doing well. I have a first-time guest in the house. Megan Chiango is joining us. Hello, Megan. Welcome aboard.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. So, for those of you who don't know, you've probably seen it. Tomorrow is Earth Day. Very exciting. A lot going on here in Newburyport. A lot going on around the country. But here in Newburyport, we have a Planet Justice rally, and we'll just do the nuts and bolts to start. 1 to 5, Waterfront Park. You want to go down there, check it all out. And Megan, you have something very cool on tap as part of this. Tell me about it.
I do. I've been working on art installation that'll go up in the waterfront in the furthest north corner of the park.
Okay.
And I've been working on it for a while. It's entirely made from marine debris that's been collected along the shores here in Newburyport and Plum Island.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of materials are you working with?
So I was really taken with the number of lobster traps actually I encountered when I was running on the beaches here. And so initially I had, which inspired the idea for the project, which started as a collection of, I was thinking of trying to incorporate or make fencing out of them, or fence art, I called it. Yeah. And after just meeting different groups here, and learning more about the stories behind the pots, the project all evolved, and I ended up. So this is a collaborative installation.
Well, okay, it's so true. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I have dogs that we bring to the beach all wintertime, and especially that time of year, for whatever reason, those lobster traps, they wash up like crazy on the beach. And, I've noticed it here. I've noticed it in Manchester by the Sea, Beverly, all these, water towns. And it's such a tough thing on the environment. It's a delicate thing, I know, because we live in so many fishing ports, but it is a tough thing on the environment. So many of these fishing issues that come with earth issues.
Yeah, there's so many stories. There's a lot of stories behind the debris that you find on the shores here, and the lobster pots carry a really interesting story that I've been looking into. It's a lot of it. They tell very interesting stories about how climate's changing, and so I find all of that very interesting.
It's funny because not funny, but I was thinking to myself, I had my Starbucks with one of the recycled straws one day on the beach, and then I looked to my left and there was massive lobster traps, and I said, well, that can't be good.
Well, what was interesting, because we did, there were some, through storm surge, there were some beach cleanups organized with high schoolers. And so in the Newburyport beaches, you found a lot of kind of recreational litter, like bottles, and then the plastic.
Is that what we call that now, recreational?
I don't know, it's what I called it. But
that's a good name for it.
Yeah, it's, but there was just a lot, people hanging out, leaving debris behind, napkins and wrappers. And then in the Plum Island side, along that side, the majority of the debris you'd encounter is really fishing debris, and so it's interesting. It tells a story on both sides.
It is, that's fast. So what? I don't want you to give too much of the art away, but what kind of thing might catch people's eye when they come down to Waterfront?
So, actually, this is a collaborative installation, so you're invited to come and participate along with everybody. In fact, I would love for everybody to come down and participate. So, I constructed sculptural components inside of a ring. So there's 4 sculptural components that are actually images of my children.
Oh, wow.
Constructed out of the debris. And around that structure, I have worked tirelessly to construct a ring. It's about 19 feet in diameter. And I also have collected numerous bright colors and different cords from the fishing debris. Oh, wow. I've washed it and cleaned it. I've cleaned this outer ring, so it's now safe. There's no risk of tetanus now.
I bet people are thinking that. You do have to say that, right? Yeah.
I do. I want to make sure everybody knows, I really worked very hard at cleaning, restoring, painting, and taping, actually, and removing any sharp points on this outer structure. What I would like to do is invite people to come and weave into the structure. So it is a monument towards individual acts of stewardship, towards things that, I would like to also have strips of cloth that people can write down what might be an act of stewardship for them, as simple as, choosing an apple over a squeezed pouch of fruit because of because with something which would use less plastic packaging.
Yeah.
And basically, it's the idea is that these small decisions may seem small, but collectively they are powerful and they do make a difference.
Does it feel like that? To me, it feels like there's more of a, I mean, I guess we've been saying it for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, seriously. But it just seems like there is a lot of momentum building towards these. Seems like every year these Earth Days get bigger, more voices get involved. I mean, I know we're nowhere close to being where we need to be, but it does seem to be becoming a bigger thing. Like it seems like there's less people that you bump into that are screaming, I don't believe in climate change. They're still out there, of course, but it seems like people are accepting this and starting to do something about it. Do you feel that at all?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of crisis going on these days.
That is true, yes, yeah.
But I do think we're starting, at least in New England. I mean, it's interesting that in New England there is been a lot of effects from temperature rise, but it's actually been comfortable, because our higher temperatures haven't necessarily risen, but our lower temperatures have gone up. So but I do think that we're starting to see the effects of things and feeling the effects of things, whether it be, and we're going to see that more rapidly.
Well, everybody
in the next coming years.
Plum Island, that hits close to home because that's a place that is literally washing away, protecting Newburyport in essence. But that's interesting that so many of those traps are found on Plum Island. How do you even go about that just process of, wow, okay, does it start with cleanup? Like, I want to get the lobster traps out of there. What can I do with it? Like, what's your mindset when you see that? When do you first think of the project?
I love the story behind the project because it really evolved and it was so inspired by the different people I met as the project evolved, and it's become something that's not just a story about the lobster pots, which is definitely almost a rabbit hole for me. Like, I'm really fascinated with that. So I again, when I was running along the beach, I would encounter this. Is just the amount of material, the physical material, the manufacturing that's gone behind producing all this material, and the fact that it just gets thrown away, and you actually. What's interesting is you can't really throw it away. Yeah. The landfills won't take them anymore. You really have to go through this arduous process of breaking them down and separating the materials. But I felt like I needed to reuse this material that was available.
So you think it was more you were just seeing so much of it?
That was the initial thing. It was just this. There was so much material there, and then as I was looking into it, I was interested in the story. The lobsters are all moving north because our oceans are warming. They're actually warming more rapidly in the Gulf in this area more than almost any other area in the ocean. And so the lobster are moving north even of Maine. But right now there's quite a few in northern Maine. Yeah. But they won't be there for very long, which is very interesting because it's such an iconic New England
Maine lobster,
yeah. So there's a story that goes along with that. There's a story that goes along with the transition from using wooden traps to the metal traps that are now coated with plastic. And so that's and it was really this idea that
they used to use wooden traps.
They used to use.
I feel like in my lifetime, I've only pictured those. I can't picture a wooden trap. But
back in the day, apparently, people, have told me they used wooden, then they changed from wood to go to the metal and plastic.
Sorry to derail you.
No, that's okay. But really, also, it's just seeing this trash discarded, and with hearing so many stories of crisis going on in the world. There's war in Ukraine was happening. And so I also found myself feeling so distant from these crises. So in one sense, I'm going to the beach with my kids. Yeah. It's a beautiful day. I'm hearing crisis going on. But I feel I was really overcome with the inability to feel like I was able to do something about these situations. Like there's this feeling of helplessness, and I don't think I'm alone in that. But you can donate money, but that actually perpetuates sort of a feeling of dissociation from being able to help. And I being able to take like this tangled cluster of trash and transform it, clean it, transform it, and make it into something communicable was a really rewarding process that helped me feel more connected to things.
I bet.
That were going on.
Again, being joined here by Megan Chiango. Planet Justice Rally is Friday, Earth Day, 1 to 5. She'll have an art installation at Waterfront Park, which is what we're talking about. So what is it's such a unique style it's a very interesting form of art. What's your background with this? When did you learn to get into this sort of art? Because is there a name for this sort of art, or is it just...
This is evolved. I'm known to. I work in a variety of different mediums.
Yep.
This is my first time working in beach debris.
Okay, beach debris art.
Yeah. But I'm not. I'm by no means am I the only one. There's quite a few other people that have worked with beach debris.
What else have you worked with? Let's give us the bio.
So I actually got a fine art degree in Carnegie Mellon back in the day. But after school, after going through the program, which I had a strong basis in drawing and painting, but also installation, also kinetic art, I welded as well. Wow. But I felt when you put things up in galleries, it just felt too separate from what was going on in communities for me. And I felt like I personally needed to interact more with the community. And so I actually pursued going into design, graphic design. And I felt like that at least gave me the opportunity to kind of work directly with multiple different groups. So I pursued that for about 23 years.
Yeah. And
then it was over the course of the pandemic. With everything going on, I just was able to reflect on my own, on basically the process of creative inquiry. I was able to see it whereas back when I was younger, in my 20s, I saw it as maybe an act of indulgence, something I loved. But through the pandemic, witnessing administration at the time, it became clear that there really is such a need for that kind of creative inquiry and dialogue and intersectionality that you can get through art. So I know it was just like turned on a dime. No longer was it a selfish kind of something that I saw as something selfish for me to pursue, but I see there being a need to pursue it.
Visualizing, like the idea of that structure, symbolic of that on the water in Newburyport, obviously a big fishing area too. I mean, that's a powerful thing to have there. I know that's what you're going for. That's what you're talking about when galleries are kind of empty sometimes. That's going to be a very powerful moment, I would think.
I think it's a perfect location. I mean, just it all came together perfectly. In the project itself, where I was going with it, it really evolved. So to have a monument, showing acts of stewardship created from debris that's found on these shorelines in this place, by not only myself but the people from this community. And I'm inviting people from the community to work into it. So
even hopefully, and even people that might not even know about it, I'm sure it's just going to catch their eye walking through such a big touristy area. Walking through downtown Newburyport, you'll see it when you walk along the water. What's that artsy mind of yours though that visualizes all this and says, I want to go clean all those traps and do all that painting and do you already have a vision of it as it's going? How does the actual process of it go? Or does it kind of come alive as you're doing it?
So, the process for this, I didn't know exactly what I was going to be making for visuals. At first, I wanted to experiment with what the materials could do. And so a lot of it, I have to say, I've gained a lot of patience being a mother. So the process of actually sorting through the ropes, I say it's analogous to combing through my daughter's hair. You just have a moment where you have to breathe in and really get all the patience that you can, and you're just meticulously sorting these materials into different piles. And so, but employing that kind of patience and care into something that's discarded was a really important process for me that I don't think I understood at that time, but it's something I felt like I needed to do. And I think that goes along with that whole idea that we do feel so dissociated from these crises going on. And that's really what the project is about. It's like, how can we these acts of physical involvement are so important right now so that we can engage. Because we do need to move things in another direction. And you can't start moving things in another direction until we have that engagement.
Yeah. And how old are your kids?
I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old.
It's so funny because, I mean, I do think it's a natural thing, right, for parents to think about, like, this is their future, too. Like, I mean, who isn't behind? Find me the person that's not behind, a healthier earth. And, but that would be a surprise to find that person. Like, it's not a cause everybody should be able to get into. So I think parents just naturally, I think, have that feeling too of like, these are my kids. What do I want to leave behind? It's probably all plays a role, right?
Well, it is, yeah. When you think it's really about respect and compassion for all life, including ourselves. Yep. Ourselves, each other, and for all life. But it's our kids that are going to be rebuilding things and adapting. Yep. In the next years, and so. It's really hard to see that change that's going to happen in the next years, but they will be having to adapt and work with it.
What you mentioned the rope thing, and I had this visual of some of those traps that I saw over last year, and like, that's not easy. Some of those ropes are tangled and they've been through, whatever. What's that process like?
It's a lot of work, and plus just the physical taking back each trap, which is interesting because sometimes I would have to go out with a shovel and dig it out of the sand, and then I could only fit about one trap in my car at one time. I also want to say that anything I did remove was because they're protected. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. So but these ones were mangled beyond use, or they didn't have any tags or labeling. So
you're supposed to, if you find one with like a name on it, you're supposed to technically return it?
They get reported, and then the owner is responsible for either coming to dispose of it or reuse it.
Gotcha.
To come and get it. But a lot of them, so technically they are protected. I mean, there's actually like a small definition missing from legislature that defines like what is debris versus a viable trap, but which hopefully they're implementing soon. Yeah. but yeah, so I would take those that are obviously trash and dig them out. So you dig them out of the sand, and then go through this arduous process of separating materials.
What happens? I was actually, again, I'm thinking back to this just 2 days ago. Dogs aren't allowed at the beach anymore. My dogs are very upset, but this time of year, they got to get out of there for the real beach people. But I noticed that the trap was still there as of like last week, I think. I remember seeing it, and I was, man, it's been there for a while. If somebody like you doesn't go and make an art project of it, like, who gets rid of those?
This is a really good question. I'm looking into this. I hope to I would like there to be a program that does help that process in this area. Yeah. There are quite a few. There's not quite a few. I mean, there's some in the Cape area and there's some in Maine, but nothing in this area. So with Plum Island in particular, like every 2 years or so, I was told that they get a large vehicle, like a bulldozer type thing, and that actually will remove the traps and then pile them up in the parking lot. In order to recycle them, it's a really difficult process because they have to get cut apart, and then they have to separate materials so that the metal parts can be recycled to a metal facility, and the rest would go into, like, when they do have mass cleanups, the other fishing debris portions are sent to like a incinerator where the energy is usually, they say green energy, but there's a lot of waste.
So these lobster traps, they're not made to be earth friendly.
I don't want to go down that path because I know I feel like
just when anything is that hard to recycle, though. I mean, it's not made to be recycled.
They're difficult, yes, and they're coated with plastic as well, which breaks down in the sun. Yeah. So when it's left on the beach, that plastic now that it's exposed to sun, it's just going to break off, and then the metal's going to corrode, and so Yeah.
Fascinating. What as far as like putting the installation together, like are there like difficult parts of it? Like, God, this gate is on every one of these things, like, or
It is definitely the most difficult misbehaving medium that I've ever worked with.
the lobster trap.
Yes. And ropes combined, but I think that was sort of part of, it takes a lot of determination to kind of sort through the material and to reuse it. And I feel like that's needed right now.
Yeah. And like, I would imagine like a lot of physical strength too. I mean, you're talking about digging, putting in your car, going back, doing it again, separating these ropes, which I've seen. The ropes are tough. Like, they're not the easiest ropes to separate.
It is. And it's funny that I was making a joke that if I was able to take this a step further, I'd like to collaborate with like CrossFit.
Yeah.
And create like this competition maybe with, that there's somebody who could organize a program where 4 people, get lined up armed with only a shovel, and they have to sprint across the beach and choose, whoever can get the most lobster traps back, they can win.
Great idea,
It'd be a great workout.
Yeah. It's like Survivor Plum Island, one of the...
Yeah.
That's one of the games is you have to go collect the lobster traps. Man, well, that's fascinating. What are you most proud of here now that you come up on Earth Day and this is going to happen? You're going to show this to everybody here in Newburyport and hopefully beyond. What's just, like, the thing that jumps out at you? Like, you know what? Are you proud of the whole thing? Are you proud of a certain aspect of it? Like, what?
I'm really proud of the story behind the whole event. Really, it's been such a great way to meet the community here and the different organizations here. And I've really been blown away by the open-mindedness and the, people who are willing to hear me out and be,
That's what I mean. It's turning a little bit. Like, I think it's different than 10 years ago. I just do. It feels that way to me.
Well, I think people know they're respecting more the intersectionality that can come from artistic dialogue. I've been really inspired by the different groups that I've been able to collaborate with or get information from. And so the whole process of just kind of this open-minded, let's see where this goes, and how the project has evolved over time and how it's really connected all different kinds of people. And I hope that it's going to bring people together tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to seeing people weaving into it and weaving into their own ideas, whether it be promises, names. I'm excited to see what it turns into after everybody's worked on it.
Yeah, it's a cool kind of art where like it's not done and it's not done. It's gonna have this whole next life to it. Again, we'll do the nuts and bolts here. That is 1 to 5 tomorrow, Waterfront Park. It is the Planet Justice Rally. A whole lot of events going on for that. I know it. You're and you said you'll be located more towards the.
It's sorry. I'm trying to decide. I have to in my head figure out what's north, south, east, and west.
Oh, geez.
So it's the furthest in part on the Parker River.
Okay.
Right. So would be east or north? It's like north and east towards the water. Yeah, and there'll be a number of different other environmental groups there.
Yep.
There will be a project to make seed bombs through storm surge.
Wow. Yeah.
For the kids.
Great group here in Newburyport.
And they're going to have public speakers as well.
Nice.
And a parade and a performance.
Do you have to speak with this kind of art? Do you have to go give this is what I did, this is why I did it?
Only in this way.
Only in this way? Okay. Do you actually try to stay quiet during that, or is that...
No, I'm actually going to be participating. I'll be handing out... I have all kinds of... I've gone through a process of sorting all the cords, so I'll be having cords actually hung up, ready to give you a table.
And if people have questions, they can ask. It's not...
Absolutely. So I'll be there.
Maybe one you don't have to... Maybe one I didn't ask.
No, my kids are going to be working on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I saw too. This has been on my mind. I just keep thinking of the beaches I walk, and two high school kids I think were walking down. I'll say this about this beach because it's a good moment, but Singing Beach, and it looked like maybe there was a campfire and beer bottles, as you mentioned earlier in the show, left behind. And I just saw 2 high school kids kind of walk over. I'm sure that wasn't their campfire, but they just started picking stuff up.
Yeah.
And I was like, it just jumped out at me. I was like, all right, that's cool. I like that.
It is. It is. I actually, that is bringing to mind like a quote I heard recently, which is "Rejoice locally, mourn globally."
Yeah.
And I think it relates to what you're saying. Whereas we hear all these crisis situations, but there's so much goodness in people, and like when you meet people in person, face to face, there's so much compassion. There's endless compassion and empathy in people.
Yeah.
Especially in a local community spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that, when that gets expanded and when you look at the picture bigger and bigger, it gets harder and harder to see that.
Yeah.
But it's there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, how many? I'm 35. We saw these two, maybe 15-year-olds doing that. I'm just thinking how many 8 or 9-year-olds were on that beach that maybe saw that and said, I should probably do that, or maybe not throw trash. Like, just that's good examples. I just think that.
It can also be a joy. I found after I started working with it, I mean, I'd much rather go to the beach and forage. I call it foraging now,
yeah.
And my kids have helped me forage, and they get excited finding stuff now. But I like to believe that we can integrate stewardship into our lives, and it can be something that brings us all joy.
All right, 2 more questions for Megan Chiango before we go about this art installation, because I have to ask, people see you digging up these lobster traps that have been stuck or whatever. Do people look at you like you're crazy at some point? Are there questions?
Yeah, people definitely ask me what I'm doing, and it's surprising. I'm expecting them to kind of, look at me in an odd way. But, so I explain the project to them, and they're like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There is a lot of material here. So.
Did you find when you had to return?
Did I find? No.
Okay.
No. So I did actually research that, and I asked permissions in certain instances, and I also made sure I was working with debris that was clearly not going to be retrieved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really sure how far a lobster trap can travel after it breaks free. I don't know if they're mostly local fishermen. Maybe one fell off a boat somewhere. Who knows, right? I mean, the stories can, like you said, are fascinating behind these things.
They are. It's it's interesting in the Cape. There's a woman I spoke to, and she does big cleanups where she gets a grant and she hires fishermen in off season, so trade fishermen off season, to go and collect they call them ghosted traps that are still in the ocean. And they're finding with the traps that they collected, I believe, 16 tons
oh my goodness, wow.
of debris last season. And the traps that they were able to collect, a majority of them are from more recreational fishermen, not so much trade fishermen.
16 tons?
16 tons.
That's a staggering number.
There's a lot of debris. It's really interesting. The more the story unfolds, the stories that unfold around it are all fascinating.
Do you see past tomorrow? Do you see yourself working with lobster traps for art?
I do. Actually, I'm currently collaborating with another artist up in Maine, and we are researching the stories because we're in different biomes here. And so she's researching the stories in the traps in Maine, and I'm researching stories here.
Fascinating. Well, it's such a cool project. Megan Chiango, Planet Justice Rally, tomorrow, 1 to 5, Waterfront Park. Go find her. I imagine it's going to be tough to miss the art installation that is made of lobster traps, because I think it's going to have to be an eye attention getter. But thank you for all the great work you're doing, and for being a part of this. It's a great cause, and thanks for cleaning up our beaches too.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It's a fascinating thing. And one final call, that you take the stage and tell anybody who wants to come out and see you tomorrow.
Please come by. My kids and I will be working on it and weaving into it, and I would love for you to be a part of it. So please come by.
Go do it. All right. Come together, Newburyport, and go do that tomorrow. This has been another edition live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Big thanks to Sarah Blackstone, as always, doing the real hard work here for this show. So thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Megan. Pleasure as always. Happy Earth Day, everybody, tomorrow. See you, everybody.